To understand about Muhammad Ghori's success, why was he able to prevail even though India had better resources in terms of manpower, in terms of the ability to indulge in warfare, in terms of agricultural resource, mineral resource, economic resource. So first let us understand about Rajputs. Who were Rajputs? Now, in the discussion in the during the Vedic times, we hear of a class known as Kshatriya, a class who, according to their Varna occupational differentiation, is the weapon wielding class, is the class which is responsible for the protection and also for the expansion of the community. But the Rajputs of early medieval India, they are very different from the Kshatriyas of the Vedic times. In fact, who exactly were the Rajputs? It has been a matter of historical debate, something that we will not get into. But the emergence of Rajputs symbolize a number of things. It is said that by some historians that Rajputs were nothing but tribes who gradually acquired land, or they were in possession of land, and they gradually raised a force and declared their independence. So the tribal origin, especially for example with respect to, they have cited examples such as the Gonds. The Gonds later became Chandelas. The Gurjars, who later became Pratiharas. Some even believe that the foreign tribes such as Shakas, Kushanas, who were first accommodated in Buddhist fold and later they started marrying in the Hindu fold, because of the mixed marriages they were given the status of fallen Kshatriyas by the Brahmanas, and Rajputs are the descendants of these fallen Kshatriyas. In the Puranas, there is a reference of Rajputra, or those who are meant to rule, because of which some historians believe that Rajputs are no one else but the Kshatriyas, tracing their lineage to solar and lunar dynasties. While Rajputs, or the rise of Rajputs, also symbolize the rise of a hybrid race promoted by the feudal conditions of early medieval India. So, in early medieval times, land was the most important resource. Whoever had land could not only claim superior ritual status, but they could also mobilize resources. Resources in terms of army, and by doing so, and by accepting the sovereignty of the king, was also given a number of privileges. And when the king declined the feudatory, or these chiefs who addressed themselves as Rana, Ranak, Chaudhary, all of them, they became independent ruling houses. So Rajputs, emerging from different origins, emerging from different areas, were ruling West India, North India, and also parts of Central India. But the Rajput polity, it suffered from a number of weaknesses. We will discuss about these weaknesses when we discuss the causes of the defeat of Rajputs by the Turks. But we have to understand that Rajput's polity, it was basically a feudal polity in which there was a king and a number of ceremonies were performed by the king to claim his legitimacy, but the degree of centralization, or the degree of control of the central power over the lords, these lords were very less. In Rajput polity, we hear of vassal army or feudatory army also. The Rajputs ruling house was divided by clan. So there was a major dynasty, and in this dynasty the land was transferred, it was distributed among the kins, the family members, and gradually over a period of time these kins, they were ruling in the name of one dynasty, but they also assumed independence or autonomy. So understand that, for example, if you talk about Shishodiyas, they are one ruling house, but in the Shishodia family there are a number of small aspirants who have been assigned tracts of land, and besides assigning tract of land, they are also given certain administrative and military obligations. They were very much tracted, they were very much influenced by their clan politics. They were loyal to the clan, and in fact they used to marry also within the clan. So we see in case of Rajput polity, intra-clan fraternity, but inter-clan hostility. So Rajput polity is also about constant warfare, which was for them a matter of sport. They emphasized upon their masculinity. They wanted to be seen as very brave, and because of which they did not think twice before declaring a war. So Rajput's polity was a very fragile polity, which always about wars and battles, because of which they could not pay much attention to the development and consolidation of their administration. They could not develop strategic foresight and rule over vast tracts of land for a larger period of time. When we talk about Rajputs, we compare the Rajputs resource base, the Rajputs a mindset with that of Turks, we will understand over a period of time how the Turks emerged to be superior. And later, with the establishment of Delhi Sultanate, even though some of the Rajput houses they protested, they stood no chance against the better mobilized resources and the army of the Delhi Sultans. A number of Rajput clans were ruling over North India, West India, and Central India. So let us see some of them. Gahdawalas were ruling over Kannauj. Kannauj, which was apple of discord, which was a major point of contention between the Palas, the Rashtrakutas, and the Pratiharas, passed under the Gahdawalas. Speaking of Gahdawalas, it is believed that Gahdawalas were again tribes. They have emerged from Kharwar tribes. Gahdawalas, they were feudatories. So the Gahdawalas, they were feudatories of Kalchuris. And when the Kalchuri kingdom was on a decline, Kalchuris in central India, they were on a decline. Chandradev, he laid the foundation stone of an independent dynasty. The sole contribution of Gahdawalas in the politics of the Gangetic Plain was that for a considerable period of time they were able to establish a stable political order. And in fact, they were also able to consolidate the most of Gangetic Plains. The next powerful ruler, Govindra Chandra Rathore, he conquered the most of Gangetic Plains. He consolidated what was left by Chandradev, and he was also able to repulse the recurring threats or recurring invasions of Ghaznavi chiefs. Later, the rivalry of Jaichand with Chauhans of Ajmer and Delhi is well known, and especially with Prithviraj Chauhan III. The Gahdawalas were defeated by Muhammad Ghori in the Battle of Chandawar. So Gahdawalas, because they were fighting with Chauhans, and Chauhans were also interested in capturing the northwestern part of the present day UP and the region around Kannauj, because of which they, despite being very powerful ruling houses, did not coalesce, did not come together to fight Muhammad Ghori. So this is a major weakness. Speaking of Chauhans of Ajmer or Delhi, Chauhans of Ajmer and Delhi, it is also, they are referred to as Chahmanaz of Shakambari. Shakambari means the Sambhar Lake, Sambhar salt region. They were also feudatories of Gurjar Pratiharas, and later, with the decline of the Pratiharas by 9th century, they declared themselves to be independent. We hear of a number of prominent kings. Vigraharaj, he was known more for his cultural pursuits. His rule is seen as a golden age in the cultural history of the Rajputs. Vigraharaj, he was known as Vishal Dev or Kavi Bandhav, was himself notable Sanskrit dramatist and a poet. He had written a Sanskrit drama, Sanskrit play known as Har Keli. His court poet Somdev had written work on his life that is known as Lalit Vigraharaj. He had built a Sanskrit college at Ajmer, and it is believed that at the same spot later Kutubuddin Aibak had constructed the Dhai Din Ka Jhopda mosque. Prithviraj Chauhan. The story of Prithviraj Chauhan is the story of a brave person who was able to repulse and defeat Muhammad Ghori in the first battle but could not sustain it, and in fact made a series of strategic mistakes which contributed to his downfall. The information of Prithviraj Chauhan is beautifully portrayed in the account of his court poet Chandra Bardai. Chandra Bardai, who was a grammatist, he was an astrologer, poet, and knower of Puranas also. His work, Prithviraj Raso, because wherever Prithviraj Chauhan used to go, he was accompanied by Chandra Bardai. And Chandra Bardai has given a very good account of the achievements of Prithviraj Chauhan. Although at various instances the information provided in Prithviraj Raso is exaggerated, but the information about the clan structure, about the society of Rajputs, which is depicted in Prithviraj Raso, is a very important source of historicity. It is believed that Prithviraj Chauhan, these Chauhans, they were very imperialist by their mindset. The Chauhans were not satisfied ruling over Ajmer and nearby regions, and they were fighting with everyone. They were trying to expand. In one of the major incidents, they captured Ujjain from the Chandelas, and the resistance of two of the important generals of the Chandelas, that is Ala and Udal, which was later captured in the number of songs of the bards, finds mention in Prithviraj Raso. He was also able to capture the Malwa region from the Parmars and Delhi from the Tomars. He was also he was fighting with the Chalukyas of Gujarat, the Solanki rulers. And after capturing Delhi, he vied for Kannauj region. And because of this, he came into direct conflict of Muhammad Ghori, because now Muhammad Ghori was also vying for this Gangetic fertile tract around the Punjab region. So Muhammad Ghori and Prithviraj Chauhan, they engaged in two battles. The first battle of Tarai, in which Prithviraj Chauhan emerged victorious, and the second one, which was a decisive battle and one of the turning points of Indian history in terms of the arrival and the consolidation of Turkish rule in India, in which again there are many accounts. According to some accounts, Prithviraj Chauhan was captured, and if we go by what Prithviraj Raso says, then Prithviraj Chauhan was able to kill Muhammad Ghori even though he was blindfolded. But one thing is for sure, that he was not immediately executed, because we have evidences of coins in which both the names of Prithviraj Chauhan and Muhammad Ghori is present. So it is highly likely that even after Prithviraj Chauhan was captured, he was allowed to, his son and successors were allowed to rule for some time. The Tomars of Delhi, again, they were feudatories of Gurjar Pratiharas, and we hear of two of the prominent ruling kings, Anangpal Tomar and Mahipal Tomar, and they were defeated by the Chauhans and later became feudatories of the Chauhans. Chandelas of Bundelkhand. The Chandelas of Bundelkhand were feudatories of Gurjar Pratiharas, and later they captured regions in Madhya Pradesh, in Kalinjar and Mahoba. Yashovarman, he was the person who laid the foundation of the Chandelas. So he was the founder king. So Yashovarman was the founder king who, after the decline of Gurjar Pratiharas, declared himself to be independent. But for some time he acknowledged the sovereignty of the Pratiharas. The Chandelas, they were constantly harassed by the Chauhans, because of which they could not survive for long, and later the last of the ruling kings, that is Parmal, was defeated by Kutubuddin Aibak, and the empire was sacked and integrated in the Delhi Sultanate. The Chandelas are also known for their patronage to temple architecture. In fact, so much so that at Khajuraho, the Chandelas are known for their patronage to temple architecture. At Khajuraho, we find large number of temples being built in a homogeneous style. Sometimes it is quite intriguing and interesting to understand that why did they build all these temples at one spot. So first of all, we see fair degree of uniformity in their design, and possibly the reason because of which they focused or concentrated entire temple building activity at Khajuraho, because they wanted to establish Khajuraho as a prominent art center. or religious center for pilgrimage. They were Vaishnavite and Shaivite by their orientation. The temples of Khajuraho, the temples built by Chandela, is a variant of the Nagara style. Again, you will be reading more in your art and culture segment. We will be focusing on some of the broad areas. The temples have been crafted, it has been built out of red sandstone, and they are a variant of Nagara architecture. We see a type of temple architecture in many of these places, such as the Lakshmana temple, in which dedicated to Vaikuntha Vishnu, it is constructed in Panchayatan style. That means there is one main shrine and four subsidiary shrines in which the attendant gods and goddesses are placed, and the main god is placed at the center. So Lakshmana temple, Kendariya Mahadev temple, both of them are very good examples of Panchayatan style. What makes Lakshmana temple, which is dedicated to Lord Vishnu, more remarkable is that here the Garbhagriha and the Mandapa. Mandapa is a place where the devotees assemble, and then we have hallway that is known as Antarala. So between a Garbhagriha, generally in all the Panchayatans, in all the Nagara style temples, we have a Mandapa, and this is a hallway which is a pillared place, a pillared hallway which is known as Antarala. At the Lakshmana temple, we don't have an Antarala, and the Mandapa and Garbhagriha is fused. Kendariya Mahadev temple dedicated to Lord Shiva is the most beautiful, it is the most ornate, and it is also built in Panchayatan style. Another temple which is not exactly in Khajuraho but few kilometers away from Khajuraho is the Chaturbhuj temple dedicated to Lord Vishnu. What is also remarkable and is unique about the temples of Chandela is the rich carvings, which is generally not so common on the Nagara temples. So the rich carvings means the images which are sculpted, created on the walls have various themes. We have erotic images also, erotic images which give an hint of tantric influence. We have images of women in different postures, which is possibly referring to the integration of folk beliefs also. So women images in different postures, in different moods, possibly they are depicting the Yakshinis. Again, Yaksh and Yakshinis, they are folk deities, semi-gods and goddesses who were later integrated in the Hindu fold as attendant deities of the main god. Even Megasthenes has referred to the worship of Nagas, of Yaksh and Yakshinis by the local people. So possibly the images of women, it is not only because of the tantric influence, but it is also a depiction of an integration of folk belief system. So Yakshinis and Methunas. And what is the philosophy behind carving these images is that if you visit a temple and then you do the circumambulation, you do the pradakshina around the Garbhagriha and you see these images, then you also marvel at the beauty of God's creation. The depiction of images or themes from the epics is also a way of providing religious education. So even here we find images of Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, and their various important stories are there, such as the incarnation of Lord Vishnu. The stories, it is presented as a continuous theme. Parmars of Malwa. Various stories have been told about how did they originate. Some believe that they had a tribal origin, whereas according to ancient Indian tradition, Hindu traditions, even it was believed that Vashisht had performed a great sacrifice on the top of Mount Abu, and from this primordial, from this sacrificial fire, four clans of Rajputs emerged. One was the Parmars, then were the Chauhans, Chalukyas, and the Pratiharas. However, on the basis of whatever concrete historical evidence is there, feudatories or they were chiefs of Rashtrakutas who after their decline established themselves as independent ruling houses based in Dhar in the present day Madhya Pradesh. Raja Munja, in fact, he was the person who declared himself as an independent ruling house and consolidated. He was not only a very good able military general, but he was also a patron of scholars and artists. And speaking of patronage, speaking of cultural development, who better than Raja Bhoj? Raja Bhoj, who was so renowned in the cultural sphere that later Kashmiri poet Bilhana, he lamented that why was I not born during the time of Raja Bhoj. Raja Bhoj, he was himself a very prominent literary figure. Raja Bhoj had established a city known as Bhojpur. In fact, it is believed that the present day capital of Madhya Pradesh, Bhopal, is derived from the name of a city established by Raja Bhoj, that is Bhojpal. He built Bhojeshwar temple. In fact, he had populated Dhar with as many as 100 temples. He also built dams at Bhojpur, and one of the dam is known as the Bhojpur Lake. Bhojshala is the name of a Sanskrit college at Dhar which was established by Raja Bhoj. His books, he has written as many as 84 books and many of them in Sanskrit dealing with a number of subjects. You can see that subjects such as chemistry and drugs, subjects such as tantric belief system. So he has written books on almost every subject. His commentary is on the existing literary repository of India. He later emerged as a frame of reference on the basis of which the later patrons of art and culture styled themselves. It is said that Krishnadevaraya, who himself turned out to be a notable literary figure, called himself as Abhinav Bhoj. So, from the point of view of art and culture, it is important that you should remember the contribution of these rulers, especially those who have made notable contribution in the field of art and culture.